So welcome to Regional Birds. Glenn Davis, Donna Billings. Glenn is a master birder, and I am not. My role is to keep him on track and to keep him from not going on and on and on, because he could do that as a master birder. And my role also is for the bird sounds that you're going to hear. Now, I did ask several of you if you have hearing aids on. With the very first, maybe second or two, when I do the bird sounds, it may screech in your hearing aids. You may want to turn them off, take them off, or if it gets really bad and you just can't take it, please let me know and we just won't do the bird sounds. But that's what I'm in charge of. Okay? And so what is a master birder, you might ask? To be a master birder, and that's what Glenn is, my role is strictly just to follow along and say, Glenn, there's a bird. He gets out his binoculars and he tells me the genus, species, and everything else about that bird. But a master birder must know by sight at least 100 birds, and by sound 50. And so it took Glenn a couple of years, and he is a master birder. I just go along for the ride and have a good time in nature. So.
Okay.
It's all yours.
All right. Our flight pattern for today is we're first to differentiate between birding and bird watching. Is this, everybody hearing this? Okay. Identify common birds around Masonic. Talk about it comes and go. They're good. Talk about citizen science and how you can get involved. And then we'll do some questions and answers. Say, if you see a binocular icon next to a bird, it means we have actually identified it at Masonic, either by sight or by sound. So we'll start by differentiating between birding and bird watching. About, 12, 15 years ago, Audubon Society differentiated between birding and bird watching. Most of you here are probably bird watchers. Maybe you're sitting in your living room looking at your feeder or your neighbors. And you're looking at the birds and you see a cardinal. You recognize a blue jay. There's doves. I'm thinking of birds. One or two of you have heard that wrens have a very unusual physiology. They're a very small brown bird, but their tail sticks up rather than sticks out. So some of you may know that, and you might see a bird at the feeder with its tail sticking, and you say, huh. You might say, hey, I see a wren, and you'd be right, it would be a wren. But as a master birder, I just can't go to Audubon and say, I saw a wren. I'd have to tell them whether I saw a Carolina wren, a house wren, or what do you need for bird watching? Well, you need a good field guide. The classic is the Roger Torrey Peterson one. It's been around since, I think, the 40s. And now David Sibley has one that's also very good, but more detailed than the Roger Torrey Peterson one. You'll need a good pair of binoculars. I could go on for 45 minutes about choosing binoculars. Donna won't let me. If you want to get a good pair of binoculars, figure on spending $400, $500, $600. Okay, you can probably find one for $50. You will not be happy with it. After a while, you'll realize it's just not showing you any details of things you need. So if you want to get binoculars, get in touch with me and we'll talk face-to-face rather than to a group. And finally, you'll need a lot of patience. Birds are very good at confusing you, and you're trying to figure out which species it is, and sometimes it's easy, and sometimes it's difficult, and sometimes they won't come down out of the tree so you can see them, so you'll need patience. All right, we'll start with the 4 S's of birding: sight, sound, sight, as in habitat, and seasons. So when you're looking at birds and maybe trying to identify them, you want to go first for color and pattern. Okay, this is, you probably all recognize it as a cardinal, but what you're looking at is a red bird with a black bib and black across the eyes. So that's the pattern you need to look for, because there are other red birds that do not have the black bib like that. Size and shape. These are two, you probably recognize them as woodpeckers. The one on the left is a downy, the one on the right is a hairy. They look very similar, but if you see them side by side, you can see the hairy is about twice the size of the downy. That's fine if they're side by side, but if you got one of them 30 yards off in the tree, you got nothing to judge size by, so it makes it a little difficult. The trick with these guys is look at the bill of the hairy. It's as long as the width of the head. Then look at the bill of the downy. The bill is about half the width of the head. So that's a way you can identify them even if they're 30 yards away. But you need a pretty good pair of binoculars to pick that up. Next, behavior. Different birds have different behaviors. Woodpeckers and nuthatches walk up and down the trunk. Many other birds land on branches. You can tell, you can narrow down what you're looking at by seeing exactly what it's doing. It wasn't too easy. We decided not to get any video in this section, but most birds fly pretty level. They fly, 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 fly. But woodpeckers and goldfinches, of all things, fly with dips. Okay? So if you see a bird flying like that, and it's not yellow, it's a woodpecker of some kind. If it is yellow, it's a goldfinch. That's sort of the behavior you're looking for. Okay, by sound. Bill's here somewhere, isn't he? He's way in the back. Okay, about 2 months ago, Bill alerted me to the fact we had an owl over in the oak tree at the bottom of the emergency vehicle road, which is just outside the doors to building 4 and 5, I think. And I went and got my camera and got a couple of pictures of it. They were on 956 for a week or two. And what we had was a barred owl. But to get back to sound, many birds have calls that are difficult to remember. It's very hard to explain a call. Like if I say, well, there's a warble in A flat followed by a trill in C sharp. Very few people would know what I'm talking about, including me. I don't know what that means. But we sometimes put words to their song. And it turns out this barred owl, and the words to the song for an owl is important because you rarely see them because they're found mostly at night. Barred owls are one of the few that you have a shot of seeing during the day, and we did. But what he sounds like is, "Who cooks for you?" You want
Can everybody hear that in the back?
Who cooks for you? And so if you hear that at night, which I have around here, okay, we got a barred owl. Never saw him until about 2 months ago, but I'd heard it over the last several years. Okay, other songs. Now, this is the white-throated sparrow, and he's got a song that people say, sounds like, "Poor Sam, Peabody, Peabody, Peabody." Kind of high pitch, can you hear it? It is a bit regional. In Canada, they say, no, he's saying, "Oh, sweet Canada, Canada, Canada." So that's the white-throated sparrow. Now, the song sparrow, which we have around here, matter of fact, I saw one at the feeder today, doesn't really have any good word song words you can put to it. But he does have a nice habit of starting his song with 1, 2, usually 2, sometimes 3 individual notes before he starts the rest of the song. We'd have to do this a couple of times. You hear the first. I know.
And while I have the microphone, I do have to say something. Several months ago, we were watching a special. I don't even know which channel it was.
PBS.
It was PBS, and it was all about birds and bird sounds. And in the very beginning, all the ornithologists were male. And they said female birds do not make any sounds. And they believed this for many, many years. And all of a sudden, females started to study ornithology. And these females said, of course female birds have sounds. It sounds like whatever. And we're watching this, and Glenn says, that's ridiculous. Of course not. And then all of a sudden, there was a female bird made a sound. And I said, well, you hear that one, Glenn, don't you? He says, nope, I don't hear a thing. So just a little bit of trivia to go along with the story.
Yeah, well, the female birds sing higher pitched, and guys can't hear that. Okay, so where were we? Okay, sight. Now this is habitat sight, not visual sight, and we have different kind of habitats, and many birds are very specific about which habitats they will be in. This doesn't usually apply during migration. If they're flying up from Central America to Canada, they may have to stop wherever they can. When they get tired, they just have to pull in for the night, spend a day resting before they fly on. But many birds, for example, the meadowlark is found only in meadows. You won't find them in forests and woodlands. Other birds, like the warblers, are usually found in woodlands, but not in meadows. We here at Masonic have a small woodland off the end of Building 1, where the Scout Trail is, and I try to get out there a couple of times every spring to see if I can hear any migrating warblers going through. We don't have any meadows here at Masonic, but we do have grass, lots and lots of grass. And the only bird that really appreciates lots and lots of grass is robins. So as you probably noticed, every spring and summer we have robins all over the place. Finally, one of the best habitats to find birds and other animals in is a water habitat. This is North Park Lake. There's all kinds of water. I mean, every animal needs water, but the water also has plenty of food, like insects, frogs, little fish, snakes, salamanders, and it attracts predatory animals like birds, and all these animals are looking to find food for themselves and hoping not to become food for something else. So right now I'm doing a thing in the Village Views about the different birds, if you've been reading it in the Village Views on birds of North Park Lake. Okay, finally by season. That helps you greatly identify birds, because whereas cardinals, oh, by the way, remember I talked about color and pattern? You can see the scarlet tanager is a red bird with black patterns, but you would have you'd be really hard pressed to misidentify those. Most of them are not quite that different, and some of them are fairly difficult to pick out. But the cardinal is here all year, so that helps you identify if, for example, you see a cardinal here, you'll be pretty sure it'll be around. The scarlet tanager is an insect eater. He can't find any food here in the winter, so he's got to migrate south to South Central America, things like that. They do not migrate because they're cold. I heard it again some woman on the news talking about, oh, this is back in October. It's getting cold. The birds are going to freeze. They're going to have to migrate soon. Well, for God's sakes, birds have a down coat on. They're not going to freeze. People wear down coats to keep from freezing. But what they're flying south for is to find food. Okay. Migration, spring and fall. You get different birds come through. A lot of them stay only a day or two. They'll come down. We have a nice big oak tree behind us. They might fly in there. Most of the migration takes place in the dark overnight. So as dawn breaks, they might land in the oak tree, spend a day there finding little caterpillars and things to eat, and then fly on up to further where they nest in the boreal forest of Canada. We get cedar waxwings. We have serviceberry trees in the back. And every, late April, maybe, we get dozens of cedar waxwings come swooping down and start eating every berries off the trees. And by a week to 10 days, they've completely stripped the trees of berries, and then they're gone. They fly off looking for other trees with berries to eat. Same thing in the fall. You have Virginia creeper, that's the vine. They have berries on them. You have crab apples. You have choke cherries blooming, and that's what they're looking for. These are fruit eaters, and they come and they go with the seasons. All right, let's start identifying some common birds we have here at Beechwood. Now, did I say Beechwood again? Yeah, I'm sorry. Masonic. I spent a lot of time at Beechwood. Masonic. So we were trying to think of a good way, Donna and I, to talk about different birds. We thought maybe size. We could start with a hummingbird and go up to an eagle. But I thought, I know, let's do it by color. So we looked at the colors of the rainbows. Does anyone remember what Roy G. Biv stands for? Yes.
Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet.
You got it. Indigo and violet. Yeah, Roy G. Biv is an imaginary guy. But this helps you remember the colors of the rainbow. So we're going to try to find birds for each of the colors. Now, red was easy. We have a cardinal. Do you have the... Donna has the songs of some of them. So that's what a cardinal sounds like. We could do that now. Yeah. Small aside here, Donna points out, picking out male and female in birds, in some cases, like the cardinal, is very easy. Cardinal, the male is red. Female has almost no red in her. She's the same size, has the same crest, but she's mostly a brown color. I guess most of you know that. We don't have a picture of it, but the brown bird following around the male, or the male chasing the brown bird, that's the female. Okay.
And I have another little story. Okay, last winter we had our male and our female cardinals, and they're right out the front window, and we watch them every morning when we're having breakfast. And this female cardinal came to the feeder, and I said, Glenn, there's something wrong with this bird. It was a leucistic cardinal. Has anybody heard of leucistic cardinals or leucistic birds? It's not an albino, which is pure white, but a leucistic has some part of the body that doesn't have the shading, and this one, female, was white, probably around in the chest area. And she came to the feeder every single morning, and the pattern was just beautiful because there were two female cardinals, two male cardinals, and then Lukey. I called her Lukey. Lukey came, and they all were kind of protective of her, and she was there for the entire winter. And I was talking to another woman that I thought was here, but she's not, and she was telling me that she has a neighbor who has a leucistic robin last year. And the difference between leucistic and an albino, and Glenn, you'll correct me if I'm wrong, but an albino cardinal would have had red eyes. So this was and I kept waiting for this leucistic cardinal Lukey to come back this year, and she did not. So just think, there's strange happenings even in the bird world.
Oh yeah. When I talk to the students, I've been, I don't want to use the word teaching, but mentoring students at Beechwood. Beechwood is correct here. And I always say, do not use the word never and always, because even though you're sure it's always, Mother Nature has a habit of throwing in an oddball for you. So say usually. So anyway, we're back to red birds again. We already saw the scarlet tanager on a previous slide. We can recognize, somebody told me at Beechwood, a scarlet tanager sounds like a robin that has taken voice lessons. That meant nothing to me. Voice lessons? I don't know. Anyway, but they have a particular little call in the middle or end of their song, and it goes chipper. So I'll raise my hand when he. Okay, start over. See that? Chipper. That tells you you've got a scarlet tanager. So those are the tricks you have to learn to pick out birds, especially by song. I had a lot of trouble with 50 birds by song, but I finally got it. Okay, orange, Baltimore Oriole. There we go. Okay, Baltimore Oriole.
There's going to be a test afterwards, you know.
Okay, so there's orange. Okay, now the goldfinch. Goldfinches are about the last bird to nest in western Pennsylvania because they insist on using thistledown in their nests. And you don't get thistledown till about the end of July, so they just fly around waiting for the thistles to bloom and then go to seed, and then when they get the down, they get it and they fill up their nests. Okay, one other thing about goldfinches. Remember I said they fly with dips like that when they fly? Okay, when they do that, they come up with 4 little chip notes that sounds like potato chip, potato chip, potato chip. Honest, it does. Listen for it, you'll hear it, potato chip, potato. So some people say, oh, it's easy to remember, that's the potato chip and dip bird. Okay, next. And of course, everyone's familiar with the ruby-throated hummingbird. Definitely migratory. Oh, you skipped it. Okay. Yeah, that horrible gargling type sound you're hearing is the sound of their wings. They don't usually chirp unless they're flying, which means if you're trying to get a tape of them flying, you got to usually put up with the wing noise. That's why they call hummingbirds. the wings make a real good hum. Not the voice, but the wings. Okay, I'm pretty sure everybody knows the blue jay. Yeah, that one, there's no sense trying to remember the song because it's not a song at all. But you can usually, I'm sure many of you have heard that, and now you know what it was. The eastern bluebird is another bluebird, very different from the blue jay. Doesn't have a crest, doesn't have black and white, but it's got a reddish breast like a robin. It's related to robins. So now we've got our blue, and then we'll go to indigo. And it just so happens there's a bird around here called an indigo bunting. And his song is very excitable. He sounds like he's really excited about something. He doesn't pause. And some people say it kind of sounds like he's saying, "Where's the fire? Over there, over there. Put it out, put it out." Where it's not a very slow, common song that you get from a robin or something.
How many of you heard that? Where's the fire? Where's the fire? Put it out. When you actually hear the bird in nature, you can distinguish.
Well, you have to use your imagination. But most birds sing a little slower and more melodious, and this one sounds very excitable, so that's where it came from. Okay, we ran into trouble with violet. There are no violet birds in western Pennsylvania. There's a green violet swallow out west. I saw it on a birding trip to the Grand Tetons, but they don't come this far. So we kind of took a violet-ish and found a house finch, which, what color would you say that is? Reddish? Anyway, we couldn't find a violet, so we were stuck with that. And house finches are found around here.
And I have to say, between building 1 and 2, in the back by the big pond, there is a house finch that sounds exactly like this. And when I walk the dog, he's on the 2nd floor. I thought he was on somebody's porch, but he's in the tree. And you could hear him almost every single night during the summer. Sounds exactly like that.
Later on, if we have time, I can tell you an interesting story about the house finch. But anyway, we're done with the rainbow, so now let's look at some other colors. We'll start with blackbirds. There are 3 blackbirds common around here: the grackle, the red-winged blackbird, and the European starling. We have the only one that has a rough song would be the red-winged blackbird. The red-winged blackbird. The other 2, the grackle and the European starling, just squawk and carry on, and it is nothing remotely resembling a song. The grackle shows up around here in, I don't know, mid-June. They build nests, they lay eggs, the offspring fledge, and by the end of July, they're gone. You don't see them again. I'm not sure why they don't stay around, but they don't. The European starlings travel in flocks, sometimes huge flocks of hundreds of birds. Around here, usually we see only about 20 or so. And they come and they go. You'll see them for a few days, and then you won't see them for a couple of weeks, and you see them again. So they're called starlings because their breast looks like it's got stars on it. It's a European bird. It doesn't belong here. Somebody brought it over to America. Matter of fact, it took him 3 tries to get it established because he wanted all of the birds mentioned in Shakespeare to be in America. Well, now it's a real pest. But thanks, Guy. Okay. If you've seen grackles in the bright sunlight, you've noticed that they kind of shimmer. They're kind of greens and redishes and purples, and they're shiny. The reason for that is because birds do not see in the same, what's the word I want? Frequencies, light frequencies that we do. We see, for example, on the left, we just see, then this isn't an American bird. I think this is somewhere in the Indonesia somewhere. But this is what we would see, a black bird with yellow on it. A bird who's looking in the ultraviolet range would see this. So that goes on with a lot of birds around here. We don't see their full color range unless, I guess, we get ultraviolet glasses. Brings up, again, the goldfinch. If you look at the goldfinches today, now, in the winter, they're almost a green instead of yellow. The reason they're green is because yellow is close enough to ultraviolet that they would be easily seen by hawks. So they molt their yellow feathers, develop greenish feathers, so that they're not as evident to hawks. In the summer, they can hide behind leaves and things, so it's not so bad for them. But in the winter, they would stand out. Now, you might say, well, gee, what about cardinals? They're a bright red. Well, bright red is quite a ways from the ultraviolet range, so they're perfectly safe from hawks. Hawks, they don't look any different. They're just a gray color. So anyway, one of the interesting things about bird evolution. Okay, yeah, we got to this. The feeder birds you're likely to see now. And I talked about these guys as the 4 amigos. The chickadee, the tufted titmouse, the nuthatch, and the downy woodpecker. These guys form loose flocks during the winter, and they fly around together from feeder to feeder and from bush to bush that might have berries in it. They're sometimes joined by Carolina wrens. You might see doves on the ground beneath them. But those 4 are usually together. And the reason they're all together is because it's more eyes. You can look out for cats. You can look out for hawks. You got more eyes to look for them. And the nice thing about it is they all eat a little differently. They have different eating habits so that they're not really in competition with each other. So we start with the chickadee. Many of you may know it. They show up on Christmas cards and things almost as much as a cardinal does. They have a nice little chickadee. Okay. And they also have a 2-note call that goes, "Hey, sweetie." So you might recognize that also. Now the tufted titmouse. They have several different songs. The usual one is the Peter, Peter, Peter. Oh, there. And that's not the only call. That's the most common. But there's one around here that goes, "Coquille, coquille, coquille." And there's another one around here that goes chewy, chewy, chewy. I haven't been able to figure out if it's 3 different tufted titmice or if it's just one giving me a hard time. But you can hear different songs out of tufted titmice. Oh, the white-breasted nuthatch. I think you've seen this slide before. These are the ones that go up and down the tree trunks, and you'll usually find them on suet, okay? And they have a call like a kazoo. For those of you who are musically inclined. Up north, up in the Allegheny National Forest and up into upstate New York, there's a red-breasted nuthatch. He doesn't come down this far, but he's got even more of a kazoo sound than the white-breasted nuthatch. And finally, we're looking at woodpeckers again. This is the downy woodpecker. Before we go into a little bit more detail, we'll talk about the red spot on the back of his head. Males have the red spot on the back of their head. Females do not. They're completely black and white. So that's another bird that's fairly easy to tell the sex of the bird. Oh, yeah, I forgot. They don't really have a song or a call. They attract females by drumming. They'll find a stick or a tree trunk that they can drum on. If they can find a hollow one, they love it because it's even louder and more attractive to the females. And once in a while, one of them discovers a drain spout, which makes a lot of noise if you can beat on that. So that's how they try to attract the females. And you can tell the difference not by the sound, not by the loudness, because it depends on what they're hitting, but by the frequency, how fast the beats are. That would be the downy. We don't have a sound of a pileated or a pileated, the big ones, but they're much slower and more deliberate. And you can tell that. Tell by the frequency if you can pick out the frequency. There's also half a dozen woodpeckers between the pileated and the downy, and they also have a frequency thing, but I can't tell the difference between them. I don't have a good enough hearing to distinguish it. It's kind of like an old push-button phone. I can tell the difference between 1 and 9. Okay, that frequency, those are different. I can't tell the difference between 4 and 5 or 5 and 6. They're just too close together for me. So it's the same with these birds, the flicker and the red-bellied woodpecker. I was going to say the flicker eats ants, so he is going south for the winter, but who was that, Tim at the front desk? Tim at the front desk said he saw a bunch of flickers feeding on, okay, brain. Sumacs, the sumac berries. Anyway, he saw a bunch of there, and this was yesterday. So some are still around. So what I was going to, like I say never or always, because some changed. And then there's the red belly. The red belly, about 10 years ago, you were lucky to find one all winter. The Christmas bird count, and I'll get to Christmas bird counts later, but the Christmas bird count, you never saw them, or maybe somebody saw one. Now they're here all winter. There's dozens of them. They've moved north, and they're called red-bellied. You can just barely make out the red belly. Okay, don't think of like a robin with a red breast. It's not a red-breasted, it's a red-bellied. Usually you can't see that unless they're standing or sitting at a certain angle, and then you can. Oh, what do we got? Okay, the freeloader. The ornithologists call it a nest parasite. It's the brown-headed cowbird. It lays its eggs, or she lays her eggs, in another bird's nest and takes off and leaves it for the other bird to raise. They evolved on the plains with bison. They would let the bison pick up insects and they would eat them. But if they built a nest and laid eggs and the bison moved on, they couldn't feed them. They didn't know how to feed themselves anyway, so they figured, okay, we'll let the other bird raise them and we'll just keep following the bison. So that was how they developed. Some birds are smart enough if they realize that their nest has been parasitized by a cowbird, they will just abandon it. They will leave their own eggs, they will leave the cowbird egg and just leave. Other birds haven't quite figured that out yet. I've seen, and the cowbird is a robin-sized bird, and I've seen these little warblers trying to feed this huge bird that they raised, and they can't figure out how it got so big. And sometimes it'll even knock the other bird's nests or eggs or nestlings out of the nest so that they are the only one. So a lot of people who raise birds or watch birds, if they find cowbirds in the area, they'll check out the nests and pull out and throw out the eggs of the cowbird. All right, the mimics. You've all probably heard of the mockingbird. This one sings, what, 6 separate songs?
You want to point them out?
I can point them out, but
Just by number.
there's 1. There's 2. That sounds like a blue jay. That's 3. That's 4. Okay, 5 and 6. They are good mimics. They can mimic sounds of chainsaws sometimes, cars starting up, and you can, when you're trying to figure out what all those birds are doing in that bush over there, you might figure it's only one bird. There is another mimic, the catbird, sings very similar, and again, I'm not sure, is that a mockingbird? I can't see it. Is it a catbird? The catbird fortunately gives you a hint. It's got this little somewhere in its song, either the beginning, the middle, or the end. This one, this recording we have, starts at the beginning. Try it once more, just to hear the first part. Hear that? That's the catbird. So you know you've had a catbird. Okay, now we'll get to predatory birds. We already talked about the barred owl that Bill Orr pointed out to me. This is the eastern screech owl. Yeah, we have heard these around here, over by the Scout Trail, and of course you can't see it. These birds are only about 8 inches tall. They're not very big, but they feed on little mice and little rodents of some kind. If they happen to run across a bird, a songbird roosting on a tree, they'll eat that too. But most of the songbirds are smart enough to hide themselves away at night. Then, of course, we got the great horned owl. We had a hard time getting
The ancient Incan people named alpaca the fiber of the god. The ancient Communities named alpaca the fiber of the god. Alpacas have been roaming the Peruvian Andes for centuries. Alpacas have been roaming the Peruvian Andes for centuries, covered in the soft warm cashmere and merino wool. Their fluffy coats have kept them comfortable for centuries in their natural environment. Their fluffy coats have kept them comfortable for centuries in their natural environment. 14,000 feet. Alpaca temperature can fluctuate between 20 and 90 degrees, where the temperature can fluctuate between 20 and 90 degrees. They share this dynamic landscape with local farmers. They share this dynamic landscape so local farmers benefit who care for them in a centuries circle. The alpaca fiber is then woven into shears and sweated yellow.
I tell you, it worked great in the dry run. But anyway, that's the. I don't know how to stop it either. Okay, the last predatory bird. These are predatory birds that eat everything from insects to.
Ooh, wait, hold on, let me get back. That did not happen when we practiced. I had no idea.
And that's the other predatory birds we have around here are the bird hawks, the Cooper's hawk, and okay, that one. Shut up, bird. That's the horned owl. Horned owls are large, fierce birds. A group of people and I saw one that had killed and brought a approximately 15-pound turkey flown up into a tree to eat. So they are big enough to pretty much feed on some of the small dogs around here. River is 20 pound, 22 pounds, something like that. He might be too big, although one of them might take a shot at him. So I keep a careful watch on him in the evening or at night. Jack's Little Lily is definitely on the menu. I mean, they are just big. They eat skunks, they eat possums, small raccoons, rabbits. They're one of the fiercest birds out there, and they're found at night. They feed on night roaming animals like possums and skunks. They don't feed on the daytime animals like squirrels. That's the other hawks. And finally, the janitor, the turkey vulture, is somewhat related to the hawks. You'll see them flying over all the time. They're flying over. If you go to Hinckley, Ohio, they will show up on March 15th, I understand, although I've never been there on March 15th. And they don't kill their prey. They let something else kill the prey, whether it's a coyote or a dog or a car. And then you find the deer alongside the road, and pretty soon these turkey vultures are there feeding on it. So are we about done, I think? Oh, yeah. Let's see how good you can guess some of the birds. What do we think is the tallest? Somebody got it. Great blue heron.
I'm afraid to play the music for the soil.
Okay, how about the widest? That's kind of a giveaway. Would be the bald eagle, right? Yeah, let's not play the songs.
No.
The strongest, I just was talking about it, would be the great horned owl. The most annoying. Yeah. Canada goose. Groundskeepers at golf clubs hate these things. They come in large numbers and poop everywhere. So and also in North Park Lake or anywhere else that the goose can be. By the way, they're called Canada geese. I put that in one of the village views. They're not Canadian. They don't come from Canada. They're Canada geese. A lot of birds are named from after they were first seen. And the example I use is there's a turkey vulture. You saw the turkey vulture. They're not Turkish vultures. They're turkey vultures. That's their name. And This is the Canada goose. Loudest for its size. You got it.
Oh, and I have a beautiful sound of the wren.
You want to give it a shot?
I'm afraid.
Oh, there's it.
You can hear it all over campus when it's singing.
Early in the morning. And in the background, I heard a tufted titmouse. I don't know if the rest of you did, but I did. Heaviest? What do you think? Somebody said it. The wild turkey. Okay. And somebody around here feeds them. Melodious? The American robin.
Does everybody know what the robin sounds like? I've got it working now again. Yeah, we hope.
Now, that apparently sounds like a scarlet tanager that didn't take voice lessons, whatever that means. Fastest, you should probably know that one.
Which one?
Swallow?
Even faster. Peregrine falcon. They say they can dive at up to 200 miles an hour. We've got a pair. Those are the birds that were almost completely wiped out in the lower 48 states because of DDT. And they got rid of DDT, and over the years they've been coming back. I remember there was a great big to-do about 20 years ago when a couple of them set up shop on the Gulf Tower, and now we have some on the Cathedral of Learning. And last summer, somebody found a nest on one of the bridges, I think in Ambridge somewhere, the first year that they've been, and they're hoping they'll come back again. They were tucked under the bridge. Most common, well, not necessarily around Masonic, but the house sparrow. You go into town and you can find them around all the dumpsters behind McDonald's and Wendy's and other restaurants. They're very opportunistic feeders. Morning dove. The squeaky sound is not from their mouth, it's the sound of their wings taking off. So the hoo, hoo, is the mourning dove sound, but you'll hear that every time they fly, they take off, you'll hear that. And it's from their wings. This is subjective, of course, but I think the cutest is the chipping sparrow.
And this is another one that you can hear from great distance.
It's here in the summer, it's gone in the winter. Smartest, you probably know that one. Crows. Do we need to play the crow? Probably not.
I think everybody knows the crow.
Okay. And the most reliable shows up every year in October like clockwork and disappears in around the end of April like clockwork. They go north. They come down here. The junco, sometimes called the snowbird, they have a very easy song. It sounds like an old dial telephone. You kind of want to take it out and say hello? Okay, now, enough about the birds specifically. Let's get to some of the citizen science things. Citizen science is a way that citizens can help scientists gather information. It's it would be expensive for scientists to get this information. It would take a lot of time and effort and a lot of people, whereas birders do, or bird watchers do this for fun. We don't expect to get paid for it. The Christmas bird count has been going on for 120, at least 120 years, and it takes place in late December, usually between Christmas and New Year's. There's a 15-foot diameter circle. Groups of people go to different parts of the circle and identify any species they see, plus how many there are. And this information is sent to the ornithology lab in Cornell University, and they massage it all, and they can come up, you can spot trends over the years. Like I think I said, the red-bellied woodpecker wasn't here 10 years ago. It is now. About 50 years ago, you were very lucky to see a cardinal here in the winter. Now we see them all the time, and they've got the records of it coming on up. Oops, running out of time. Okay, Project Feeder Watch. It's this February 13th through the 16th. This one is easy. You don't have to go looking for birds. You sit there and watch the birds at your feeder. That information is also sent to Cornell.
Regarding the feeder watch, I do it every year, and I get the check sheets from Cornell Lab of Ornithology. If anybody is interested in participating, you can do it from your kitchen window, living room window, balcony, wherever you are. If you're interested, I put a sign-up sheet in the back. Put your name down and your phone number, and I'll contact you and get you the information and show you what to do.
Okay, we're almost done here. Okay, listing. That's the last thing that birders are well known for. The classic is the life list. People have a list of every bird they've ever seen. There's over 10,000 birds, so you got plenty to choose from. That's kind of a lot. The American life list, there's approximately 730 species in the United States. There are people that try to count them all in a single year. It's called a big year. There was a movie about it, and I think a book, The Big Year. And it's very time-consuming, and it's very expensive. I mean, there's birds out on the Aleutian Islands off Alaska. Then you got them in Southern California. You got some up in Maine that you're trying to get. Then there's down in Florida. So it takes a lot of time. You build up a whole lot of frequent flyer miles doing it, but they're not cheap. So I do site lists. I had over 100 birds where I used to live in Apollo in my property, in my neighborhood. You can set your own site. I had over 100 birds when I used to work in Cranberry at Mine Safety Appliances in that area. It's now all built up, so I wouldn't get that many now. Around Masonic, and I got to point out that this has changed since this was done. I saw a red shoulder hawk Thursday morning when I was walking river, so there's now 53. So I didn't want to tell Donna she'd done so much work on this thing, and I didn't want to say, oh, you got to change it. So I define Masonic as anywhere on Masonic, if I'm on Masonic property, or if they're on Masonic property, but I'm not. That's unusual, but it could happen. Maybe I'm driving by. And if they're on the ground, on a bush, on a tree, if they fly over, I count them. Yes?
What's your life list?
What?
What's your life list?
I don't have a life list.
I thought you did when you came back from Africa.
Oh, that was another site list.
Oh.
That was Africa. I said Africa, but we were only in a tiny portion of Africa. But anyway.
How many did you
Saw 127 different birds on that trip.
life birds?
Yeah, well, 123 of them were life birds. But I don't know. I get very, what's the word I want? Obsessive about it. So I would like, rather than go running off to try to find an unusual bird, I like to sometimes just sit there and watch one I've already seen said, "Why isn't that a pretty bird?" So I do not have a life list. I'm afraid it would start running my life.
Before you answer Dave's question, he drove everybody crazy in Africa because they were looking at animals. He wanted to look at birds, and he made the driver of our little van go way out of her way because he thought there was a bird about a mile down the road. Dave.
Yeah,
How do
Dave.
birds produce the sounds? How do they produce? What do they have a larynx like we
It's
do?
not actually a larynx. What's it called? There's a different word for it. I'll have to get back to you on that. It's not a larynx as such, but they can modulate it and make a sound. Hmm?
It's further down in their wind.
Okay,
Never mind.
I do know the answer, but I can't think of it right now.
Glenn, do all birds make a sound?
Most of them do. There might be some that I don't want to say all, but most of them do.
All the males.
All males, and a lot of females too, apparently. I don't know that ostriches make a sound, for example,
Or penguins? I don't know.
or I don't know that penguins make a sound, but they might. I don't know.
Lee says they do.
Okay, if you say they do, they do. You might hear them at the zoo or at the aviary. Again, I never say always, and I never say never. Yes? Question? Catherine?
Catherine said penguins make a noise.
Penguins make a noise. Okay, we've got a couple of different people saying that. So, all right, penguins make a noise. I'll buy that. So, if you need any more information, we've got the Fern Hollow Nature Center, which is just over there on Glen Mitchell Road, Audubon Society at Beechwood, National Aviary on the north side, Cornell Laboratory. You have some copies of
I have handouts.
handouts in the back, and if we don't have enough, tell Donna she'll make another couple of copies for you. So I've run out of time. Actually, I've run over time. Are there any more questions? Did anyone want to hear about the house finch, or have you had enough birds? The house finch, we showed a picture of it. The house finch is a bird that was found on the West Coast. It never went over the Rocky Mountains. It was too much for it. So for years, that's where it lived. And somebody in California caught a couple of dozen of them somehow and shipped them to a friend of his in New York City who had a pet store. Well, that happens to be a violation of the Migratory Bird Treaty that was done over 100 years ago between Canada, U.S., Mexico, several other Latin American countries. And so the federal agents moved in to confiscate the birds and punish this guy. Well, somebody tipped him off, and he turned them all loose. I don't have any birds, will you? So, okay, very good. A couple of years later, they started showing up in Christmas bird counts or feeder clutches in the New York area. And then they started spreading south and west to New Jersey. And then we picked them up here in the Pittsburgh bird counts, I don't know, about 15 years ago maybe. This was in the 90s that he turned them loose. So they are now spreading all over the East. I have a friend that lives in Canada, Calgary, Canada, and he sent me a picture of them a couple of years ago. He said, "What's this bird? It's not in my field guide." And it was the house finch. And of course it wouldn't be in his field guide in Calgary because they never came over the Rocky Mountains. So I had to tell him he's going to need to get a new field guide with house finches in it. So that's the way birds can spread. I told you about the guy that brought over the starlings. There was a flock of starlings about 40 years ago that flew up in one of the New York airports and caused a plane crash, killed a couple of hundred, I don't think it was 100, maybe 120 people. But this guy had to have all the birds there that Shakespeare mentioned. So that goes on. And you usually get in trouble when you start messing with the balance of nature like that. Any other questions? Again, Bill, thanks for the pointing out the owl. Yeah.
I don't have a question, I have a comment about the ones that everybody finds annoying, the Canada geese. When I was a teacher, I always told the children about how important it was that they always stay together in that V formation. And I would have them line up like a V, and then show them about how the first one always would fly a fruit point, and then he would rotate back, and the other ones would take his place. And the other things about why I like them so much is that if one of them got shot by the sky or was ill or something, one or two of them would fly down and stay with that goose until he recovered or until he died, and then they would fly back to their place. So I always loved the Canada geese. They were always a very big symbol to me.
Yeah, I just meant the groundskeepers were the ones who were annoyed, but I don't mind them.
Other thing I wanted to say is, I loved the mourning doves that were on my old home. I had a wreath on the front door and on the porch, and I always had the mourning doves. I could hear them where I am here, but I never see them.
Talk to Gay. She's got about, every time I walk River by in the morning, a half a dozen at least fly off. So they're around.
I have some on my porch though, wrens.
Friends, yes. Okay, any more questions? I'm already 12 minutes over, so.